All right, we good? All right, you want to start with those beers?
Yes, but before that,
Got to finish the dew.
Sapporo for you,
Nice, I get the Japanese beer.
and the Steely for me.
Nice warm beers on this beautiful Sunday afternoon.
Any time of day is a good time for a Steely.
All right, so I've known you maybe 14 or so years now. We don't see each other too much now because you're always doing other shit, and I'm still here in San Diego. But dude, let's just fucking start from the beginning. I mean, we grew up skating together, and then that kind of transitioned into like the whole dirt squad thing. So there's been a lot of life you've lived in that time.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, my earliest memories of us hanging out would be hanging out at our friend Zane's house, playing music and skating. I don't know if it's because of the amount of Mountain Dew I drank, but a lot of that stuff blurs together. So maybe you could jog my memory on some of the things we did, but the things that really stood out to me was just rocking out, skating, and having a good time, exploring storm drains. I think when I was a kid, like I didn't really have access to go out into the forest, into the woods, and like have big adventures, but the storm drains were like a place where I could go down and explore something that was out of the ordinary. It wasn't something that you could see every day, and it was just like a literal underground city. So I
Totally.
thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, you definitely watch too much fucking Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's like another thing that I've totally forgotten about since then is like, definitely you have spent a lot more time down there kind of spelunking or whatever you want to call it. But fuck yeah, I remember one time after a Dirt Squad show, I think it was at the Prescott's house when like there was like a whole like whatever, everybody was skating the ramp and stuff. And we were going back to Jacob's house, and I don't even know whose idea it was. It must have been yours. We were just like walking to the store or something to get beer, and like we're like, oh yeah, let's just like go through the tunnels. And
Yeah.
we did that, and like we were there for like 3 fucking hours. And like when we came out, the cops like were driving by randomly and stopped us, and like I was the only not inebriated person.
Yeah.
So I was talking to them, and they were like, what the fuck are you guys doing out at like 4 in the morning? Like there's nothing around here. And thankfully he just like let us go back to the house. But that was one of my memories of like doing that stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think one thing that was super cool about storm drains is nobody's there to see you, so you could really do whatever you want. So you could like go down and practice tagging.
Dude, yeah.
You could find like sometimes cool skate spots. You could like find spots where you find people walking by and you could yell shit out of the gutters to scare people.
Did you ever go to any of the shows in the C Street pits?
Yes, yeah, dude. I've been to a couple sewer shows and those were super epic. Yeah, actually,
They still do them.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't know like who throws them, but
Yeah, I heard there a lot of them are word of mouth, so I definitely need to like find the connection to that.
dude, I mean, C Street, probably fucking just go down there. I remember one time Stella and Nino and I were walking down there, and this was like, did you ever skate the spot that we built right there? It was like that weird, actually, yeah, I think you did, because it was like with Matt and everybody. There's like the weird volcano looking thing. Yeah. So like we were down there like around the time that we built that, and there was this fucking dude with like a clown mask, like Halloween mask and a machete.
Oh,
And he was just like walking like through the pits, you know? And fucking scary. Like that's like literally like the worst case scenario when you're in a place like that, you know?
Yes. Yeah, totally. I feel like if I spent more time down there, I might have evolved into something like that. But I've definitely experienced a lot of like interesting things in the storm drains. I remember with my one buddy, Andrew Nelson, that I would explore a lot with down there. We were going through the storm drains at maybe 2:30 in the morning. We were in the Grossmont area. And we heard like a really high-pitched sound. And it sounded like somebody was like torturing a mouse.
Jesus.
Really high-pitched screeching. So it kind of gets our attention, but we're a little spooked out. Usually we're not. Like we're pretty brave at the time, we thought, at least brave enough to go through the storm drain at night and not really think too much about it. But we started approaching the sound, and what scared the living shit out of us was a low rumbling sound. And this thing, it didn't sound like a dog or a coyote or anything like that. It sounded like something that crossed between a human and some sort of ape. And it started to get a little bit louder and a little bit louder, and we just looked at each other, and as soon as we started sprinting, we just hear from behind us, and we just ran out of there as fast as we could. And there was a fire station out by the exit of the storm drain, and everybody there was hanging out. All the firefighters are hanging out in front of the station, and they're like, "Kids, what are you doing?" And we just ran past them, just scared out of our wits. We got home as soon as we could.
Dude, yeah, that's spooky.
Yeah, that was probably one of the scariest experiences of my life.
Interesting. That says a lot, that like one of the scariest experiences was so close to people.
Yeah.
And not like in the backcountry.
No, totally, because that was something that I didn't have any explanation for. I think everything else in my life that's been like spooky, scary, or borderline traumatic has been like very explainable. That was one of the things that I could not explain, though.
Yeah, fucking chupacabra or something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of around the time that you must have started doing the, guess what would you call it? Not junior firefighting.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like junior firefighting with Heartland, and it's called Fire Explorers. At the time in high school, we were required to have some community service experiences. So I went to the library for a little while, then I went next door and checked on the fire station and see what I could do there. And they told me about the program, so I joined. And it was a pretty cool introduction into that world. I got to learn that, structure firefighting was a very specific kind of beast, and a lot of it is waiting around. A lot of it is medical calls. You're not always getting called to like burning buildings and stuff like that. Yeah, house calls for fires are actually super rare. Happen maybe once or twice a year.
That's crazy.
From what I heard, because I never actually got to the point where I was working out of a structure station like that. But when I was doing that, I did look into other options, and that's what led me into the California Conservation Corps, because they had a wildland firefighting program.
So it's crazy. I don't think I ever realized that it started as like a community service thing.
Yeah. And, I just kind of was like interested in the idea, and I got to learn some basics. But yeah, it's kind of weird sometimes, like you start off on this path, for some random reason, maybe because you're forced to, but it leads you to something that's actually really interesting and cool. And too, at the CCC, most of the people that were in there were court ordered to do so. So
right.
You get a lot of bad kids. I did 2 years there. The program is a year long initially. We started out with 12 people in our group, and only 3 people made it through the program. It was a really cool program, and there's a lot of side programs to it, like backcountry trails, fire program I mentioned. We worked in Northern California on the Humboldt coast and inland a bit. We worked on riparian restoration, SRP, which is salmon restoration projects, dragging giant logs and rocks into creeks, basically creating fish habitat. We'd plant willow stakes on the side of ravines to stabilize hillsides. We would go to the beach and pull invasive grasses. A lot of what we were doing is basically because at some point or another, humanity thought it was a good idea to change the environment, and in really unprecedented ways.
Yeah.
It came back to bite us in the ass, and CCC was there. And to some degree, it's kind of controversial, because sometimes it feels like a drop in the bucket. You go to these beaches where you have to pull amafla, and you spend, all day on maybe a 50 by 50 foot patch of grass. It's going to grow back at least 3 times before you completely cure that area. And you look down the beach, and there's about 10 miles of the stuff. And it started somewhere in that area because they wanted to stabilize the dunes there so that sand didn't fly onto the railroad tracks. And it just spread, and now you could find it anywhere from British Columbia all the way down to Baja California. So invasive species was something we worked on a lot, and it wasn't the funnest thing we did in the seas, but you know, it was all part of the grind to get to like the funner programs, like backcountry trails program. That one was pretty sweet. Worked 5.5 months out in the wilderness, and you don't come back the entire time. They make you give you their phone as soon as you start, so there's no technology, there's no music out there.
Jesus.
You could like, you know, make some instruments, drums or whatever you want. You could sing.
Are you guys doing that?
Oh yeah,
You guys are doing your
we had some
little
pots and pans
banging
and
on
stuff
rocks
like
and
that.
shit?
Yeah, totally. People, you know, get bored and people get really weird. We do like a lot of what they call classes. We'll do like, we were required to do a class every day, so it was very regimented. You had to take a shower every day, and when you're going in early March, the only place you could really do that is a creek with about 7 inches of super cold snow runoff water. So you got to go down there when it's already cold and basically do a push-up and lay down in this puddle and scrub yourself.
Just enough to submerge yourself.
Yeah,
and get wet,
and
then
that
you're
was
like, nope, I'm good.
That was required, and that was actually a deal breaker for some people. Like obviously not
Dang,
everybody
they just
made
couldn't
that
hang
program.
or what?
Exactly, you just
That's
couldn't hang.
crazy.
But you know, a lot of weird requirements like that. Always had to have a buddy. I think maybe 3 or 4 people ended up offing themselves either purposely or on accident in the program.
way.
So they were like super anal about all the rules and stuff like
I
that.
mean, I can only imagine the kind of shit that goes wrong when you're just like literally so far out there with no communication or anything. You're so separated from society.
Yeah, they make it an interesting experience where it's half women, half guys, and they get people from all different backgrounds. So for instance, there was a lawyer on my crew, you know, just got out of law school, was looking for like a change in her life. She was just sick of like being in a classroom, studying and living in New York City. And then you got one guy from the backwoods in Mississippi, just is getting out of gang life. He
Total
actually,
opposite ends of the spectrum.
100% opposite ends. He actually got into the program and he still had stitches on his ass from when he got shot a week before he started the program. Apparently they were supposed to dissolve. They didn't. Our supervisor had to pull the stitches out.
No way.
Yeah, while we were out there in the backcountry. Yeah.
So was that kind of like the trajectory from doing the conservation work to like hotshot stuff, or what?
Yeah, so when I joined the program, I didn't know about the backcountry trails program. I was mostly interested in fire. So I applied for the backcountry trails program. Unfortunately, they were looking mostly for girls at the time because the program has to be half girls, half guys. It's the rule. So a girl got it instead of me. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I've only been here for a few months. I'll do fire crew first. So it was pretty competitive at the time, but my buddy David Keith and I, we got on to the fire crew and we were super stoked. And it's an entry level hand crew is what it's called. We do a little bit of initial attack, mostly around Shasta Trinity National Forest, but we traveled down south as well. So I did 2 seasons during the summer, and then the following season when I got back from the backcountry trails program, I jumped back onto that fire crew. And I started out on that entry-level fire crew in the back of the digging squad. So on a fire crew, you have people running chainsaw in the front. They clear a corridor. Typically it's called 10 and 2, so 10 feet wide and then a 2-foot scrape. The 10 feet wide is the corridor that's opened up by the chainsaws, followed by the digging crew, and they create a 2-foot scraped pathway so that when fire reaches that point, it doesn't have any fuel to burn, so then it stops right there. So I started off in the very back of the line on McLeod, which if people are familiar with the Forest Service, especially with firefighting, it's a tool that people really like to make fun of.
Why is that?
I don't know why, actually. I really like the McLeod. People just really like to talk shit, I guess. And typically it's used by somebody who's just joining the crew, so it's like a rookie tool, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But,
you stick the rookie on it.
Yeah, but I could still chunk line with it like nobody's business. It's a sweet tool, honestly.
Nice. Yeah, what was your daily gear setup then? Like just carrying a chainsaw and backpack and like what kind of stuff do you have with you?
So on that crew, since I was just on the dig, you'd be required to carry, usually a gallon of water. It could be more depending on the assignment we're on. You're gonna have extra equipment that you might bring. If you're helping somebody with a chainsaw, it's called swamping, you're gonna bring like extra gas, like you're gonna bring some extra chain for them. You're gonna bring like extra supplies that he might need. You might bring a pounder, so when he's felling a tree, you could stick a wedge behind it and pound it and work as a team that way. You obviously have your fire shelter that weighs a pretty decent amount. You carry fusees with you, so in case of emergency, you're trying to get a helicopter to land and it's dark outside, you could light a fusee and show them where you are. Or if you're doing a back burning operation where sometimes when the conditions are favorable, you could light a fire on a controlled line and then have that fuel get burned between you and the fire, which creates more defensible space. So you could actually use that fusee to start a fire too.
Yeah.
Glow sticks, MRE rations. We use the same rations that American military uses.
That's pretty much what you guys are eating out there, or what?
It depends, because sometimes we're spiking it, which means that we're out on camping assignments and we're out there for several days at a time. In that case, we get MREs, and then sometimes they get slung in on helicopters. A lot of times on campaign fires, they're going back to a camp, like a big, huge camp that they set up for the campaign fire, and they give you 5-pound lunches.
Jeez.
And they'll give you sandwiches, cold burritos, candy, juice, like anything you could think of, you could find in this pouch. And yeah, it's pretty cool. They give you some foil, so if you're doing mop up, basically that is once the fire has gone through an area, there might be still some punky logs still burning, roots still burning, anything that's still smoldering or has heat, you want to expel that heat so the fire is completely out. So in that case, you have some foil, you have your cold burrito, you wrap it up and heat up your food on a hot spot.
Yeah.
So there's little tips and ways to get by when you're out there on the line.
Yeah, you eat your warmed up burrito and then you go down the river and get your cold dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the backcountry trails program, when I started the program, I was huge dew head. Some people would say that it was an addiction. I would say it's more of a commitment than anything. But when I got out there, you're completely cut off, from all the things you like to get every day, all your creature comforts. So I'd write to people, ask for Mountain Dew to be sent out and whatnot. Sometimes my answers were called and I'd get a 20-ounce packed in on the mules. And, I'd have a 20-ounce with me. I'd store it at the bottom of a creek, and then
like some Code Red, some Baja Blast, Old Faithful.
Usually Classic Dew, people would send out, but yeah, sometimes it would be specialty flavors like that Baja Code Red for sure.
It's funny because it's like for people that know you, and I think for people that just kind of know you, Mountain Dew is such a part of your personality and like your mythology almost,
Oh, fair enough.
if someone were to hear that who doesn't really know you, like, yeah, he's like, backcountry Forest Service guy who's writing letters to hope that somebody sends him some dew is like just fucking bonkers, dude.
Yeah, that's fair, honestly. And I think people, my close friends, they kind of knew like where I was coming from, and they felt bad for me. But I think there were also people that I knew that were like, I think this is a good time for him to like detox and stay away from it.
Cold turkey right there. You send you a backcountry for 5 months and
yeah,
you're like, oh, I guess
shaking in my sleeping bag at night,
having withdrawals.
Yeah,
jeez.
No, it wasn't that bad, but it definitely was on my mind, and I don't know if it was the caffeine, sugar, or, part of it is just really deeply ingrained in my childhood. So whenever I'm drinking a Mountain Dew, it's like it brings me back too.
Totally. I
It's
mean,
just
yeah, dude, food does that. It's like what
totally.
comfort food is, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, with fire, you could bring it down the line like nothing, but backcountry is a whole different animal. Uh, I actually had a buddy send out an empty Mountain Dew can. That was not funny at all. It was,
Just to fuck with you?
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked.
He
Did
ended
he,
up
like,
sending a Dew
close
later.
it and,
He
like...
actually ended up sending a Dew later on, but yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. I'm sure that made you sad for like a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, after that, what was kind of the transition into like doing through hikes and stuff? Because you did the PCT kind of right after that.
Yeah, and there's definitely like a transition there, and actually my backcountry experience inspired me to hike the PCT because we were working in the Marble Mountain Wilderness in Klamath National Forest, and a lot of our camps were along the PCT, so we did a lot of log outs. So say like a log like this is all on the trail, we'd go out with crosscut saws. We're in the wilderness, can't use chainsaws. So, go out with teams of 2 to 3 people and cut these out of the way. Using big bars to pry them out and roll them down the hill. That was like one of the funnest parts, was like, going down a steep hill, see a log just fly down with tremendous force and break, 5-inch wide tree like nothing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But when I was on the PCT working, I met a lot of PCT hikers, and they were super cool, and we chatted a lot, especially if we were camping out, either spiking or we were on a weekend backpacking trip, and they just told me stories, and I thought it was so cool, like just the idea of like putting everything you need for a few months on your back and starting a trail that goes from Mexico to Canada. It wasn't until 2 summers after that I did that adventure.
That was a crazy one, I remember, because Nino and Jake and I had always talked about it when we were teenagers. Obviously, we were never going to fucking do it. But then one day you're just like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be gone for 3 months. I'm doing the PCT. And we're just like, what the fuck, dude? Like Stefano's actually going to do it. That's so sick. And since then, there's been a handful of people in my life, through hikers, that's kind of seems to be everybody's like inaugural through hike that they do. And then they go and do the CDT and they do the Appalachian and all that stuff. But it's cool because that's like everybody's jumping off point, you know?
Yeah, I would say so. And like, I mean, out of the 3, I think I don't know about the easiest. There's differences from what I've heard. I haven't done any of the other 2 big through hikes. CDT, I heard, is a lot like choose your own adventure. AT, they call the Green Tunnel. And, it's weird too because, people research it and a lot of people say the same things, but AT sounds like it has a completely different vibe. There's a lot of more party culture on the AT, and they have huts, pretty often along the trail that you could stay in, party, do whatever you want. But one thing that's really different and what made me decide on the PCT over the AT was the variation. So we're pretty close right now to the PCT, and it's mountainous. There's open clearings, there's trees. A bit south of here is desert. A bit north of here is more desert. But you start off in the desert, you come into shrublands, get into foothills. You end up in really sweet alpine environments.
I mean, the elevation change between the AT has got to be crazy. Like,
yes.
I feel like it's probably not that much on the AT, but here it's like fucking crazy, the mountain ranges you're going through.
Yeah, definitely. You go into higher ranges of altitude. Highest point, I believe, is 13,211 feet on one of the passes going through the Sierras. I believe it's Forester Pass. But like on the AT, I guess a lot of those trails were created, a lot longer before the PCT was created. And they basically had a different way of making trails back then, where they'd go pretty much straight up and down a mountain, because it was the fastest way, versus by the time they got over here to the west coast, they had more of a recreational aspect in mind.
Yeah, a lot more
And
switchbacks and a lot more like planning their trails and just fucking cutting up the mountain.
exactly. Take the long way for sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, it does make it longer. So that's, you know, an additional challenge, you know, on the PCT versus the AT. It's about 500 miles longer. But the AT, because it's so up and down, straightforward, across really rough terrain, it's physically harder from what I've
Yeah.
heard. A lot physically harder.
That's funny that that's like the party through hike then. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine people wanting to go and just like act a fool on a, you know, hike that kicks your ass like that.
No, yeah, definitely. And it's interesting too, because some people, they just want to get away from everything and they go out there and it turns out that it's, you know, a whole party, and every day you could choose to do that. And, you know, on the PCT, I met a lot of people that were dragged down because they partied so
Yeah.
much. And,
You
you
ever-
know, it was huge for me too. I started May 15th and ended October 1st, so I had 4.5 months to do it. I was just constrained by school, and then the season change. I mean, I was getting snowed out at the end of my trip, very very nearly.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to rush to finish. But people along the way that were even faster than me, they would just hang out in town. Sometimes they'd say, "All right, I'm ready to get out of town.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm done partying." They get to the trailhead and say, "I'm gonna stay one more day. I'll see you later," and then
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
see them again.
What was it like down here on this end when you got to like San Jacinto and that kind of area? Was it still pretty icy, or you started late enough in the season?
Yeah, yeah. So 2018 was a really good year to hike it. There wasn't a huge snowpack at all, and I started late. So the combination of those two things made it really easy compared to other seasons. I believe it was 2 seasons before, the water crossings were so gnarly, even a couple people died.
Yeah, yeah.
I just talked to a thru hiker that hiked it a few seasons ago, and there was a lot of snow. The snowpack was gnarly. Usually that also coincides with gnarly river crossings, and he actually ended up doing a flip-flop. So you go up from here to the Sierras. Once it gets gnarly, you start from the northern end and then go back down.
Interesting.
So there's different techniques to it. I mean, some people would say, "Oh, that's not a thru hike." I still consider it a thru hike. It's
Yeah.
just a different way of doing it. You're crossing the same terrain.
Yeah, yeah. Same shit.
Yeah.
Did you do any side summits?
Oh yeah, yeah. San Jacinto was one, but that's, you know, probably I think is only like a 0.2 mile off the trail. Mount Whitney was
yeah.
probably the biggest side mission that I did, and it was awesome too because I had a pretty heavy pack. But I was able to leave it at the ranger station, and I felt like I just flew up the
Yeah,
trail
yeah, I'm
going
sure.
up. I trail ran up there with boots on, but it was this interesting experience because I realized that running with boots, you know, it's what I was used to, as along with hiking with boots, is just what I always did. But everybody wore trail runners, and like I was like, oh, you know, whatever. I got my own thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't until after the trail that I actually switched over to ultras, and I was like, okay, I could see why people are doing this.
It's
But
funny because that, just like the dude, that's another thing that is like so ingrained in the Stefano Waterman mythology. Is the boots, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, I remember a distinct time when we were teenagers that like, you stop wearing Chucks and you got a pair of boots.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just like, oh yeah, style change. Like he fucking plays in a punk band and he's wearing Doc Martens or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were wearing like some fucking serious boots, and that was the only footwear that you owned.
Yeah.
Skating, hiking, fucking playing a show, like whatever you were doing, you were wearing those boots.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is crazy.
Actually, my trail name on the PCT was Boots. Yeah, funny enough,
Yeah,
I
real
got
creative.
that. Yeah, I know, right? So I got that name, and like, yeah, I was like running down Mount Whitney. It was actually really cool because it was a full moon, running down Mount Whitney at night, going around the switchbacks, and they're clunky, you know.
Yeah,
You're like
yeah.
bumping against rocks, but that was the first time I didn't have a pack on, so it was like I felt like I could run. And then, you know, coming off the trail, switching into more of a running style, I started wearing more trail runners. So I could see why people
Yeah.
started the trail like that. But wearing boots started even well before I got into the CCC. And it was a bit of an issue when I was growing up. I damn near got gangrene. People that knew me pretty closely at the
You
time
didn't take them off for
knew
a fucking year, dude.
Yeah, I rarely took showers. I kept them on while I slept. I don't know why I did this. Again, maybe too much Mountain Dew, but I slept with a pair of boots laced up and a motorcycle helmet every night. You know?
Yeah, dude, that was a fucking funny time. I remember one of the first Dirt Squad shows I went to. This was in like not the final iteration of the band, but Sebastian was still playing bass.
Yeah.
And so you were wearing your motorcycle helmet and you had a banana duct taped around it.
Yeah, yeah. The Chick
Fucking
Cafe,
crazy,
yeah.
crazy fit, dude. But so sick. That's like just peak Dirt Squad right there, you know.
Totally, totally.
But yeah, it's funny hearing that the PCT was kind of like the apex of your boot wearing, and then now you got your trail runners on, and you were talking earlier about the ultralight stuff.
Yeah, I was just telling you the story, but when I was getting into Oregon on the PCT, my boots were just wrecked. They're a pair of Danner Quarries, and those are like my favorite boots, like all-time favorite boots. Not a cheap pair of boots, but you know, that's what I wore firefighting. That's what I wore in the CCC.
I mean, shit, dude, you wear them every day. Like,
yeah,
you get your use out of them. You know?
Oh yeah, definitely. But at some point, I looked down while I was hiking, and there was just a hole in the Danner Quarries with like a little bit of blood coming out of it. So at that point, it was like, okay, I'll get a new pair of boots. I actually went into the Danner store, and that was in Portland. Whenever you get off the trail, you just got to hitchhike from the trailhead. That's just what you do. And people know who you are. They know you're a through hiker. They see your pack, and you know, people are super cool. I think the longest I ever waited was like 25 minutes to get a ride.
Yeah, they know who you are. They know where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I get into town, get into Portland. I get to the Danner store, and you know, to ask them if they have any Danner Quarries. They say yeah. And they see my boots, and they ask me what the hell I'm doing with them, and I tell them I was hiking the PCT, and the guy was really stoked, but he was also really confused, like, what the hell are you doing hiking with these boots on the PCT? And I was like, ah, that's what I'm used to. And he was pretty surprised, and his dad had hiked the PCT, so he kind of had a soft spot for me, and he's like, yeah, hold on a second. He goes to the back and comes out with a box, and it's a pair of Danner Quarries. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, you know, they're my size. And he's like, yeah, you know what, man? I know what you're doing, and I think it's really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and give these to you for free. So it's like $250 pair of boots.
Crazy,
he's like,
so sick.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was so stoked. And he's like, well, there's one caveat. And I'm like, yeah, what's that? He's like, they're steel-toed.
You fucking couldn't sell them, so he gave them to you. He pawned them off on you.
Yeah. I mean, so people are already making fun of me because I had this 84-liter pack, Mystery Ranch.
I mean, yeah, fucking proper form for you, though, because like you were saying, like you didn't cold soak, you had a heavier pack than everybody, and now you're rocking the steel-toed boots.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
You just went balls to the wall, like as much weight as possible.
Yeah, I mean, there was one guy I met that was more overloaded than me. He was from Argentina. His name was Kitchen Sink. That was his trail name. He had everything but the kitchen sink. You're right. So that was his trail name. So he had a crazy huge pack, and he told me that he had downsized massively. And I'm like, dude, how did you possibly downsize? And he told me that when he came from Argentina, that he thought that he would have to hunt his food every day. So this dude had a straight up arsenal with him.
Yeah.
He said he brought about 5 ninja stars, 3 different knives, a hatchet, a small sword with him.
The fuck is he gonna hunt with what are they, shuriken? The ninja stars, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking Naruto out in the forest.
Yeah. And dude, I was laughing my ass off when I heard that. Really cool guy, Kitchen Sink. But you know, a lot of people they downsize and they try to go to like, you know, 10 to 15 pound base weight. I just was used to it, and I was like, whatever. If I would do another through hike, though, I would probably wisen up a bit and go lighter again.
Yeah.
I am kind of transitioning a bit more into fast packing, trail running, longer distances instead of doing the hiking. Ironically enough, my longest day, most amount of miles covered in one day, is hiking and not running.
Yeah, that is crazy. I believe it, though. I mean, stamina-wise, I mean, you would think that you could just last longer hiking than running, you know?
Yeah.
No matter how much weight you're carrying with you.
Yeah.
And from like a traveling point of view too, like we were saying earlier, it's like when you're gearing up to go to South America or wherever, like I know you're about to go down to Chile and do that hike and stuff, it's like you want the lightest gear possible.
Oh,
You don't want to be
totally,
carrying a
yeah.
bunch of heavy shit and dealing with all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, man, it's like it's just all about practicality, you know, and a big part of it is comfort, and you know, technology goes, you know, a pretty big ways when it comes to things like that. My next investment is probably gonna be a pair of puffy pants. You know,
Yeah.
as funny as it sounds, it's like, dude, have a pair of pants
That
that you can roll
comfort.
into a little ball and put in your
I
pocket.
mean,
Like,
I
sign
love
me
my
up.
puffer jacket. Sleeping in
Yeah.
a nice pair of puffer pants. I think about all the times I've camped in the snow too.
Uh-huh.
Like, dude, if I had a pair of puffer pants,
Yeah, dude, game
it would have
changer,
been
right?
so much nicer sleeping
Uh-huh.
in the snow, you know?
No, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't have like a real shelter when I did the PCT. I had a bivy sack. Actually, I started with a bivy sack, got rid of it. I just had a tarp, and basically what I was doing all the way from basically the beginning. I started with a buddy. He made it about a week. But from roughly the beginning all the way to about Ashland, Oregon, I was mostly cowboy camping every night.
Yeah, so you got to Southern Oregon basically just sleeping in the grass.
Yeah.
I remember that too. Like when me and Alexis and Zane came and met you over here in Laguna, it's like
Oh,
what,
yeah.
day 3 probably?
Yeah.
Day 2, day 3?
Yeah, I remember that.
Just in the meadow, you were in your bivvy, just going to sleep. You made some mac and cheese and you were going to sleep. And I was like, fuck, dude, he's really doing it. He's really just cowboy camping this whole thing, like in the grass here.
Yeah, just like wrapped up in a little cocoon, like between some Forbes, you know, I have my macaroni, you know, I go down and I'm out like a light. I mean, luckily I could sleep pretty much anywhere. So that's kind of like a superpower when it comes to being outdoors, because like, I don't know, when it comes to like resting, it's really important to get your sleep. Some people they're like, oh, I have to go to a hotel room to get good sleep, and that's what it takes sometimes. But I mean, luckily I just could sleep anywhere, and I would take naps like every day on the trail. I kind of had a different hiking schedule than a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm sure when you've done whatever it is, 20, 30 miles a day too, like it really doesn't matter where you're sleeping. You're just so tired.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, dude, just lay down on the grass here. I'll fall asleep.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. You know, my normal day, I'd get started, like a lot of people get started like when the sun comes up, you know, 6:30, 7. I think I was usually starting to hike at like 9, maybe 9 o'clock, 9:30. Especially like in the desert, I started pretty late, like I said. So I'd start late. Like pretty often I'd sleep like kind of close to the trail, you know, with a tarp, and you know, there's water caches out there. So I got woken up like half a dozen times, like somebody just opening it up thinking I'm like, you know, water stash,
Yeah, right.
you know, and then getting scared like, oh shit. But yeah, being on the trail, just like with a bivvy, you know, or really like super light setup with a tarp is, I think, the way to go. What was I saying?
You're just talking about sleeping,
Yeah.
cowboy camping versus, you know, tent, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What was your setup like when you started doing the bike trips?
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was talking about too. I was talking about my schedule. Like, yeah, so I'd wake up like at 9, get started hiking, and like I'd take a nap, you know, around like 12, 1 o'clock, and I ended up like doing a lot of hiking at night, like through the night. And at the time I was like into edibles, so you know, it started to get dark, and some people, like, I don't know why, a lot of people from Europe, like, they were really scared of bears and mountain lions, probably because they don't have them out there. So like, it's just kind of like unknown beast to them.
Yeah, they don't
and
know
they
how
get
to deal with it.
really spooked. But you know, I'm kind of used to like being out at night. I didn't really care, so I'd like pop an edible and like go hiking like until like 2 in the morning sometimes. Like, especially in the desert was really fun. You get to hear different sounds. You know, the wind it sounds a little different at night. It's kind of a different experience.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a
you
whole
know?
different vibe when you just
Exactly.
ate some drugs and you're just gonna go for a walk.
Yeah,
A nice walk in the forest.
Yeah, no, totally.
But what was the first bike trip you did after that? Was that the
Yeah.
Baja trip to Cabo or?
That was yeah, actually. So after the PCT, like, I had a buddy, I still have a buddy, David Keith, and he does a lot of bike packing. He's actually bike packing right now in Thailand.
Dang, that's
Yeah,
That's not really a place that you hear about too often.
No, not at all. Yeah. But he was planning on bike packing from Anchorage down through Alaska, through Canada, roughly along like Pan American route, going down like the Continental Divide. But he did, by the way, a lot of side trips And then going through Mexico, like, Copper Canyon, whatnot, and then going all the way down eventually to Tierra del Fuego down in South America, the tip.
Dude,
And he's still on that mission, but he's like doing like a lot of side adventures. Like he'll
he's
go.
taking his time.
Yeah, he's taking his time. Like he went over to Australia to work and New Zealand to work, and he goes back and forth. And lived in Mexico for like a year working and teaching English, and just doing a lot of side adventuring, which is cool. That's what it's all about, But he introduced me to the idea, and on his way down, I met him in Montana initially when I was doing Montana Conservation Corps, and then we met again afterwards, after I finished the Montana Conservation Corps in San Diego, La Mesa, where my parents were, and from there we took off down Baja. It's called the Baja Divide. It's about 1,701 miles, and it starts in San Diego, goes through Tecate, it goes through Ojos Negros, and it follows mostly like Baja 1,500 route, roughly, which a lot of it is like completely inaccessible, at least the time I was out there, by car, because it was really, really badly eroded. And you need a really gnarly setup. You need at least plus size tires. I ended up having a fat bike, and you need to go tubeless because there's just thorns from cactuses everywhere along the path. It's mostly on dirt roads. There's a little bit of single track and a little bit of pavement, like coming in and out of towns for resupplies. Out of like all the adventures I've been on, I would say the Baja Divide and my trip in Lesotho, South Africa, those two were the hardest to resupply. But the thing was with Baja, I speak Spanish, so it was easy enough to like find food if it's a really small village, because it's a really small village. Sometimes the store won't be open in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
You could talk to enough people and figure out where the shopkeeper is to open up. But a lot of times it might just be like bags of chips and sodas.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
right.
just, that's just
like
what you gotta
actual
do.
food.
Yeah. A lot of times too, like there's just farmers out there and ranchers, and they do a lot of goat ranching. So you'll find like people that are selling goat cheese. I helped this guy out with his generator once, and he gave us some goat cheese, and we ate a lot of goat cheese on that trip. Did get sick one time. I remember my buddy David, he's just like, I was ahead, I got sick, I was just like laying on the ground. He like rolls by me, he's like, dude, come on man, let's go. I'm like, dude, I feel like shit. I'm just like laying on the beach.
You think it was from something you ate, or?
Oh yeah, I mean that goat cheese had like flies all over it.
Yeah.
And for the most part, that's fine. Like you get by, but
Is that real queso fresco with the fucking flies on
it? Yeah. So you're always rolling the dice a little bit. But I got sick, and he rolled by me, just called me a pussy, just kept going, and I was just like, all right, well, whatever. Just like crawled up. I remember that day I had a big climb, and I was just crawling up this hill, puking, and crawling up this hill on my bike, puking. Like backpacking, it's easier to just do one step in front of the other. If you start slowing down enough on a steep grade on a bike, you slip and just your tires just like flip out, and you're just like done. Just like gotta walk your bike, and hike a bike kind of sucks sometimes.
Sure, that's a lot different because like you have the panniers and you have a bunch of fucking gear
yeah. We had to do a lot of hike a bike on my Africa trip, but on that trip, there was a decent amount of hike a bike, and a lot of like sandy portions of the trip too, so it was pretty challenging in that sense. Funny enough though, the day after I felt great, and I got on with the journey, and then about like halfway through the day, I see David, and he's just like on the side of the road in a culvert, just like laying down, like, dude, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, Pansy. Like, we got more to ride today.
Look who doesn't feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's some of that. He has celiac disease. And
They can't
although
eat
his
anything with gluten.
yeah, and although his Spanish is good, sometimes people in rural parts of Mexico don't understand,
Yeah.
like what celiac disease is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they say, "Oh yeah, you're fine, no pasa nada."
Yeah,
And
you're like, no,
yeah.
I'm gonna die if I eat this right now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he ends up shitting his brains out. Yeah.
Jesus.
So I mean, that was part of it. Um, Drank a lot of mezcalito. It's liquor made from caña that you could buy for like 30 pesos.
That's crazy. In Baja, they had that?
Yeah, yeah, you can buy it out of like a plastic jug for like
Crazy.
like 40 pesos. It's like, yeah, it's like, what people buy here, like Steel Reserve malt liquor, like the
Yeah,
cheap
yeah.
stuff. It's like that, but it's like up to 35% alcohol.
Well, that's like, people tell the stories of like fucking going to Oaxaca like 10 plus years ago before it was like super hip and trendy to go there. It's
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, dude, I could buy mezcal in a fucking, 2 liters and it was like whatever, 10 pesos or
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, not anymore, dude.
Yeah,
Like, it's
no.
like fucking $80 a bottle.
Yeah, well, they realized like how much of a market there is for that stuff. But yeah, it was cool. Like, I mean, that's what I love doing, like traveling around, is like trying out like what the local beer, liquor, what the local drinks are and stuff
I mean,
like
dude,
that.
that's like the whole purpose of traveling,
No, yeah,
Experience
totally.
like
Yeah.
other shit from other people.
No, totally. Pulque.
Dude, that's like
yeah.
my favorite. Like in the list of agave spirits,
Uh-huh.
it's probably like pulque and then like tequila and then mezcal for me.
Dude, totally.
I think so,
100%. I mean, beer is awesome, but like it's got nothing on pulque. It's just like so unique and tasty and
Dude, yeah.
yeah.
Agree 100%.
You're more of a natural.
It depends. Like I like
Yeah.
the curados or like if the flavor is like a good flavor, but
Yeah.
natural's
I do
pretty-
like going like to Mexico City and just like trying out the crazy unicorn flavors,
Dude, yeah,
cotton candy. And,
You know what
and
I've noticed
cheese
too?
and-
Like
yeah.
I'm sure you've noticed this from your travels is like depending on what state you're in, like if you're in like Hidalgo or like Jalisco or something, like it's way different. Like when I've had pulque in Jalisco, it's super watery. It's not
Yeah.
baboso like it is in like other like further south places,
Mm-hmm.
And like I like that. I also don't mind when it's super fucking slimy.
Yeah.
Kind of like it.
No, yeah, me too. I like it. Really, baboso pulque is also awesome too. Going back to the Baja Divide, I was on a pretty small budget at the time. Like getting out of MCC and the Montana Conservation Corps, we got paid about $500 a month. Yeah, I was sleeping in a house under the stairs at the time, paying luckily only like $120 for rent.
Yeah.
This is 2019. But even for then, it was super good deal. But anyways, a lot of that trip I was just super budgeting, so eating a lot of that goat cheese,
Yeah.
for discounted prices, lots of like bags of chips, and getting tacos for the road and whatnot.
How long after that did you do the Alaska trip?
So Baja was at the end of 2019, and the Alaska trip was after I got done working on a fishing boat, and that was in the summer of 2021. And I started the first day of summer. Yeah.
And that was all the way back here, or you went to Mexico after that?
So to live.
Just like what was the route? I guess?
Okay, so those are two separate trips, and the one in Alaska. So a lot of that was road riding, going through Canada and Alaska, and then I hopped on the Great Divide. So the Great Divide is basically like the CDT, but for biking, and it goes along a lot of Forest Service roads and whatnot, some single track and stuff too. But that trip went from Anchorage, Alaska to Moab.
Jeez,
I don't
dude.
know how many miles it was.
And you did that solo?
I did that one solo.
How long
Yeah.
did that take?
I think it was about 3 months. Yeah. Like it went a lot quicker than I thought it was going to, but I had a light on my side because when I started in Alaska, I got like 17 hours or more of daylight.
Yeah, you just go all day.
Yeah, and I just didn't really get sleepy. And then apart from that, I never wanted to stop because there was just hordes of mosquitoes everywhere.
Yeah, you can't stop.
So you just
get
stop for a
eaten alive.
second, or you're like crawling up a hill, and you're just motivated by all these stingers getting you.
It sounds like
constantly.
hell.
It was
honestly.
really, really gnarly, and it just made me want to ride like all day. So that's part of the reason why I got through so quickly.
So that was to Moab. For some reason, I always thought that was like back to back to Southern California. So after that, you rode from here to Mexico City, or what was that trip?
No. So yeah, just the Baja trip, and then the other one from Anchorage to Moab. I did another bike packing trip. It was a bike climbing trip, and that one was in the state of Nuevo León near Monterrey. And this was like the trip where I carried the most gear because we had to carry all of our camping gear, and then we also had to carry all of our climbing gear. No trad or anything, it was all sport climbing. But we started in Monterey, and then my buddy mapped out a route through canyons. We honestly didn't even know if it would work, and we ended up having to do quite a bit of hike-a-bike and also like helping each other carry all of our gear and bikes over giant boulders in these ravines to get to these like epic climbing spots.
Yeah.
But you know, that was a super fun adventure.
Sounds like a good time, dude.
Yeah, and
Is that
then
kind of when you got into climbing too, or what?
I got into climbing when I was in Montana. I had a buddy, Andrew, and he introduced myself into climbing, and he like showed me the ropes and taught me how to lead and sport climb. And my buddy Paul Tim, shout out to Paul, and we both kind of started climbing like in that style together.
So you guys were doing like top rope. You guys weren't bouldering?
We were doing a lot of lead climbing, which is like sport climbing, clipping into bolts and protecting ourselves as like we would climb up the wall, you know. And like starting out, I made a few mistakes, and like I never wore a helmet, and I still don't really wear a helmet, but I am a little more careful about some of the things I do. I remember like I think it was my second month climbing. Somebody asked me if I could do a victory whip, and victory whip involves like topping out on top of the cliff. Once you made it up, you're placing your gear, you're clipping in as you go up, as you go up, as you go up. You get to the very top, and then you step onto the cliff. And the victory whip involves jumping off the cliff, turning around, and then throwing your feet into the wall to stop yourself. But you know, something in your mind when you're about to jump off a cliff is just like, what are you doing, you jackass?
Yeah,
but you
that
know,
doesn't sound like the smartest idea.
right. But you know, usually you're fine, except for if you get the rope tied around your foot when you jump off, and that's what happened to me. So went to leap, turned around, had the rope right behind my ankle. As soon as I caught slack on the rope, I flipped upside down. It was about 50 feet up in the air on a cliffside. And then my whole body flipped upside down. Luckily didn't fly out of my harness. And then I swung back first into the rock and slammed my head against the cliff.
Dude, with no helmet too?
No helmet.
That's gnarly.
Yeah, my head just like bounced off, and I got a pretty good ringer, but nothing happened. Look, I don't know how. It was weird.
Stayed up all night, didn't go to sleep, and then you're like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah. There's been like a couple adventures I've been on where have had close calls. My buddy David like Superman flew like 10 feet into a rock and like cracked his helmet on the Baja Divide, and a lot of these places are so remote, like I don't know what to do in like an emergency situation. Halfway through my trip from Anchorage to Moab, I was going down a hill called the Oh Shit Hill in Montana on the Great Divide, and trying to ride it out, but just touching on the brakes, swerving back and forth. Just imagine a super loose, dirty ravine with all these round rocks, hauling ass, trying to hold on for dear life, and just getting pitched, going 20, 30 miles an hour, flying through the air, and, did like a front flip, and I broke my thumb. I don't know how bad it was because I never got an x-ray. Just had a lot of bad experiences, especially after breaking my hand bare knuckle boxing, where I just like, I don't want to go to the doctors anymore.
When the hell were you bare knuckle boxing, dude?
Night before I went out to Humboldt, my buddy Alan Trang, who was going into the Marines.
Oh no, dude! I remember you guys used to fucking go at it. I have video on my phone of you guys one night at the Waterman residence.
Oh yeah,
doing that.
Yeah, it starts off like wrestling, having fun, and it leads to something stupid, but. Anyway, after that experience, I'm like, dude, I don't want to go to the doctors anymore. So I wrapped it up and ended up taking a more chill path, going through off the Colorado plateau of Utah, like going through like the Salt Lake City area, and that was a little bit more chill. But yeah, then I eventually made it down to Moab. I'd like to finish that trip at some point going down the Great Divide, and
Yeah.
especially go through Colorado. That's definitely on the list.
Yeah, I'm sure it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So when's the Dirt Squad reunion?
If anybody's watching this that knows Jake Schroeder, just tell Jake Schroeder. As long as Jake Schroeder knows what's up, he's the missing link to get it all going.
You guys should just do like a version where everybody that's ever been in the band like gets to be in it for like a, you know, like super group where like, you know, Sebastian is in.
Dude, that would
Jake's
be sick, and just
Zane's
add
in,
extra
Jacob.
instruments.
Yeah. Or just have like two guitars and.
Dude, that would be sweet.
That'd be pretty crazy.
I would be 100% down. And you could jump back in.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll play bass. We'll have 2 bass, 2 guitars. Zane will have his double bass, so it'll be like 2 drums. You know?
Yeah,
you guys got to do that.
dude, that would be super sweet. Yeah, their squad forever, and hopefully soon. You know, at least play another show, a reunion show at least.
Yeah,
I'd be happy if we get at least a couple more in there.
Got to do it, dude, for La Mesa.
For La Mesa, yeah. Oh yeah, and then there was a couple other things that happened on that biking trip that were pretty gnarly. Like in Yukon, I was still bivvying it, going through. It was during the summer, and it wasn't too cold. And always have your food in a safe spot whenever, especially if you're going through
Is this
Canada.
a bear story?
Yeah, Canada and Alaska and Montana, Colorado, anywhere really where there's any bears. Just make sure to like have your food either in a bear canister, bear box, or you know up in a tree at least. I had my bike and food pretty close by, and I probably had a couple cans of beer, peanut butter next to my bivvy too.
Rookie mistake, dude.
Totally. Definitely.
Peanut butter next to the bivvy in bear country.
Yeah. So I woke up maybe like 3 in the morning, but it was light out, and I hear some rustling, and then I look over and I see my bike get knocked over, and I see this giant fur ball there. I'm like, oh shit. And I see him. It's like a decent size brown bear. And actually, it was probably a black bear. Not 100%. I think it was a black bear, but it was brown colored black bear. And he's going through my shit, going through my food. And at this point, I was like, all right, I'm just going to kind of lay here and make sure that he doesn't like notice me. But obviously, he noticed me at some point because he saw like some big mound of something. And he comes over, and I'm looking at him through my mesh. I have like a mesh screen at the top of my bivvy. I'm still not moving, and I just feel like something nudging against my foot. It was almost like I was getting woken up by a puppy or something. And then I could feel his nose, and he's like nudging my ankle, nudging the top of my thigh. And he kind of stops, and then he comes up right close to my face, and I could hear it. His nostril power was something else. Like, you could just hear it super loud. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm just going to continue to play dead and, you know, see what happens. He can't see me fully because I'm in this bivvy sack.
Yeah.
And then I see his face kind of go out of view, and I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to leave. And that's when I feel something big wrap around my thigh. And that was his jaws completely wrapping around my leg. And it wasn't like a bite. It was kind of like he was trying to figure out what I was. And he was probably hungry because...
test nibble.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, a friendly nibble.
But he didn't get you, he didn't...
Didn't draw blood or anything, but there was, you know, a split point where I felt such a pinch that I felt at any moment, you know, he was going to puncture the skin. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm not just going to be a chew toy. So I was able to kind of jump up, and that startled the shit out of the bear. And I was able to get on my feet, and I had my sleeping bag. I was still in my sleeping bag, so I don't know, you know, how scary I looked. But, you know, I got as big as possible. Didn't yell. I've yelled in other circumstances with bears, but at this time, I didn't yell. But I did get really big, had my arms up with my sleeping bag, and just started rocking back and forth. I don't know, this is what I did at the moment. And he just looked hella confused. And he looked a little pissed off, to be honest, that I like wasn't easy food, and he kind of starts snarling, making weird noises, like. And then he kind of looks at me again, and like starts kind of waddling away. Looks back at me again, waddles away, and then he goes on his merry way. And I pack everything up. And
Dude, you got so lucky. You got so lucky.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, like up in Alaska, this is Yukon, but you know, up in that area, it's more so the black bears that cause more of the accidents that, you know, bite more humans. But you know, it was a younger one. From what I've heard, a lot of times it's the older ones you got to look out for. They become senile,
Yeah.
or maybe get too used to being around humans. So moral of the story is don't camp with any food out
Always
in bear
have
country.
your bear box.
And
Always.
yeah, I had bear spray with me too, but it was on my bike. And also don't camp behind a junkyard. Yeah, I camped behind a random junkyard in the Yukon, and apparently that's a good place for bears to roam around and hang out.
They just love picking engines and
yeah,
trying to find parts.
yeah, working on his hot rod or something.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, I know we didn't even cover like half of the shit you've done in your life, so we're gonna have to have a part 2 to this. But
oh shit, all right.
I appreciate you fucking coming out and doing this and talking about it for a little bit.
All right,
And,
yeah, man. Thanks
I
for
await
having
the
me,
Dirt Squad reunion. Hopefully sometime this year. If
dude.
Jake
That
comes
would be
back.
that would be fucking awesome, dude.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Hell yeah, dude. I felt like it ended abruptly, but if you really do want to do a part 2, I'm down.
No, we'll do it.